The massive doors of the Grand Assembly Hall opened with a sound like thunder. Captain Jake Morrison walked through them, his boots clicking on the smooth crystal floor. Behind him came the rest of the human delegation. They all wore their best uniforms, but Jake could see the worry in their eyes. The hall was huge. It stretched up so high that Jake could barely see the ceiling. Around the circular room sat the representatives of 12 alien species. Each one looked different from the others. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others looked like giant insects. A few seemed to be made of living crystal that sparkled in the light. Admiral Lisa. Carter walked beside Jake. She had been humanity's voice in the Galactic Council for 3 years. She knew these aliens better than anyone else on Earth. But today, even she looked nervous. "Remember," she whispered to Jake, "let me do the talking. We need to stay calm no matter what they say." Jake nodded, but kept his hand near his weapon. Old habits from his days as a soldier were hard to break. The other humans in their group looked just as tense. They all knew this meeting could change everything for their species. At the center of the hall stood a tall platform. On it sat the council speaker, a creature that looked like a tree made of silver metal. Its voice filled the room without any visible mouth moving. "The human delegation will approach," the speaker announced. Lisa led the way to the center of the room. Jake and the others followed her. As they walked, Jake felt the eyes of every alien in the hall watching them. Some of those eyes were filled with hate. Others showed fear. None showed friendship. "Admiral Carter," the speaker continued, "you and your species stand accused of serious crimes against galactic law. How do you answer?" Lisa stood straight and tall. "We answer that humanity has done nothing wrong. We have followed every treaty we signed. We have respected the borders of other species. We have lived in peace." A sound like angry, buzzing filled the hall. It came from the Insectoid Collective's representative, a creature that looked like a giant mantis. "Peace?" It clicked. "You call building warships peace? You call expanding your territory peace? We build ships to protect ourselves." Lisa replied, "We expand only to empty worlds that no one else wants. This is our right as a free species." The Zephyrian Empire's ambassador rose from its seat. It had 4 arms and purple skin that seemed to shift color as it moved. "Rights?" it said with a voice like wind through caves. "You speak of rights while you refuse to give up your weapons. Of mass destruction. Every civilized species has abandoned such tools. Yet humans cling to them like savages." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. He had fought in wars to protect human colonies. He had seen friends die because they were outgunned by alien pirates. But Lisa held up a hand to keep him quiet. "Those weapons have never been used against council members," she said. "They exist only to protect human worlds from those who would harm us." "The council has offered protection," said the crystalline hegemony's representative. Its voice sounded like music played on glass. "Yet you refuse to trust us. You act as if we are your enemies. Can you blame us?" Lisa asked. "From the day we joined this council, you have tried to limit our growth. You have blocked our trade agreements. You have prevented us from settling on worlds that sit empty. You treat us like dangerous children who cannot be trusted." The hall erupted in anger. Sounds, tentacles waved in the air. Crystals flashed with angry light. The speaker raised one of its metal branches for silence. "The human species has shown itself to be aggressive and untrustworthy," the speaker declared. "You expand too quickly. You arm yourselves too heavily. You show no respect for the wisdom of older species. The Council has decided that humanity is not ready for membership in galactic civilization." Jake felt his heart sink. He had feared this moment would come. Lisa's face went pale, but she kept her voice steady. "What does the Council propose?" she asked. The purple-skinned Zephyrian stood again. By unanimous vote of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby exiled from civilized space. You have 30 standard days to withdraw all human presence beyond the outer rim. Any human vessel found within Council territory after this period will be destroyed without warning. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Around him, the other humans looked shocked. Some began to protest, but Lisa held up both hands. "This is your final decision?" she asked. "It is," the speaker confirmed. "Humanity has proven itself unworthy of membership in our community. You will take your violence and your weapons and leave. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when you have learned wisdom, you may petition to return." Jake watched Lisa's face carefully. He had known her for years, had served under her command in the outer colonies. He could see something changing in her eyes. The fear was leaving, replaced by something harder. "Very well," she said quietly. "Humanity accepts the Council's judgment. We will prepare for departure immediately." The aliens seemed surprised by how easily she accepted their decision. Jake was surprised too. He had expected her to fight harder, to argue more, but Lisa was already turning to leave. "Come," she said to the human delegation. "We have much to prepare." As they walked back toward the doors, Jake heard the aliens talking among themselves. They sounded relieved, as if they had expected humanity to cause trouble. They had no idea what they had just done. Outside the hall, Lisa waited until they were alone before speaking. "Contact Earth immediately," she told her aide. "Tell President Williams that we need to begin Operation Prometheus at once." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Operation Prometheus?" Lisa looked at him with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "They think they are sending us into exile," she said. "They have no idea they have just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The human delegation boarded their ship and began the journey back to Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued their meeting, discussing how to divide up the territories that humanity would abandon. They were already making plans for the empty worlds they would soon claim. None of them suspected that humanity had been preparing for this day for months. None of them knew about the hidden weapons, the secret bases, the carefully placed agents throughout their territories. They thought they were casting out a minor annoyance. They were about to learn what humans really were. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. President Danny Williams stood before the cameras in the White House, his face grave as he addressed the world. Behind him, the flags of Earth's United Nations hung in silence. "My fellow humans," he began, "today we face the greatest challenge in our species' history. The Galactic Council has chosen to exile us from civilized space. They believe we are too dangerous, too violent to share the galaxy with them." In living rooms across the planet, families gathered around their screens. Children asked their parents what exile meant. Adults wondered if they would ever see the stars again. But in the deep bunkers beneath military bases, other conversations were taking place. General Frank Hayes stood in the Pentagon's war room, surrounded by screens showing star maps and fleet positions. Around the table sat Earth's most senior military officers. These were the people who had been preparing for this day. "How long do we have?" asked Colonel Beth Walker, commander of Earth's Special Forces. 30 days, Hayes replied. 30 days to move our pieces into position. The Council thinks they are generous, giving us time to pack our bags and leave quietly. They have no idea what those 30 days will really buy us. Dr. Helen Brooks entered the room carrying a tablet filled with data. She was Earth's leading expert on alien biology, and for the past 2 years, she had been working on something that made everyone in the room nervous. "The biological weapons are ready," she announced. "Each one is designed to target specific alien species. They will cause sickness and confusion, but not death. We want to disable their forces not commit genocide. General Hayes nodded. What? About the tech warfare? Tony Martinez has finished installing the pulse generators, Walker reported. They are hidden in 23 different star systems, disguised as mining equipment or communication arrays. When we activate them, every council ship in range will lose power. Hayes looked at the star map on the main screen. Red dots marked human positions. Blue dots showed alien military bases. Green dots indicated the hidden weapons that humanity had been placing for months. The Council sees us as primitive, he said. They think we fight with brute force and nothing else. They are about to learn that humans are much more clever than they appear. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Starship Liberty as it headed toward the Outer Rim. To any alien watching, it looked like a defeated refugee ship carrying humans into exile. The other ships in the convoy looked the same, packed with families and their belongings. But Morrison knew better. Hidden in the cargo holds were weapons that violated every galactic treaty. The families were real, but they were also soldiers and technicians in disguise. The children, playing in the corridors, were being taught to use alien communication systems. Sir, his communications officer said, we are receiving a message from the Zephyrian patrol fleet. They want to inspect our cargo. Morrison smiled. Tell them we welcome their inspection. Make sure they see exactly what we want them to see. Zephyrian ships approached slowly, their purple hulls gleaming in the starlight. Morrison watched as alien soldiers beamed aboard his ship. They were tall and proud, convinced of their superiority over the primitive humans. You are carrying a lot of equipment for refugees, the Zephyrian commander observed as he walked through the cargo bay. We are a practical people, Morrison replied. We take what we need to survive in the outer systems. Mining equipment, communication arrays, medical supplies. Surely you do not begrudge us the tools to build new lives? The alien looked at the massive crates suspiciously, but his scanners showed exactly what Morrison said they would show. The human technology was well beyond anything the Council expected from such a young species. Very well, the commander said finally. Proceed to your exile. Try to learn wisdom in the darkness beyond the rim. As the alien ships moved away, Morrison's tactical officer whispered, They have no idea those mining lasers can punch through. Battleship armor. Good, Morrison replied. Let them think we are beaten. In a few weeks, they will learn the truth. On Earth, the final preparations were taking place. In factories hidden deep underground, workers assembled weapons that did not officially exist. In laboratories, scientists put finishing touches on technologies that the Council had banned. In training centers, soldiers practiced fighting in the methane atmospheres, and high-gravity worlds of alien species. Dr. Brooks worked late into the night, checking and rechecking her biological agents. Each one was a masterpiece of genetic engineering, designed to exploit the specific weaknesses of different alien species. The crystalline beings would find their bodies dissolving. The insectoid creatures would lose their ability to coordinate. The energy beings would be trapped in physical forms. Are you sure about this? Her assistant asked. Once we release these, there is no going back. Brooks looked at the vials of engineered bacteria and viruses. They could have treated us as equals, she said. Instead, they chose to cast us out like dangerous animals. Now they will learn what dangerous animals can really do. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Lisa Carter oversaw the final assembly of humanity's true war fleet. These ships had been built in secret, far from alien eyes. They were faster than anything the Council had, armed with weapons that pushed the limits of physics, and crewed by humans who had nothing left to lose. The Exodus ships are almost in position, her aide reported. Captain Morrison's group will reach the Outer Rim in 6 days. And our hidden bases? Carter asked, all operational. We have supply depots in 12 systems, communication relays in 8 more, and weapon caches in places the Council has never bothered to explore. Carter studied the tactical display. The plan was complex, requiring precise timing and coordination across dozens of star systems. But humans had always been good at complex plans. "Signal all units," she ordered. "Operation Prometheus begins in 72 hours. Make sure every ship captain understands their role. We will only get one chance at this." As the final day of preparation arrived, humanity presented 2 faces to the galaxy. On the surface, they appeared to be a defeated species slinking away in shame. Refugee ships packed with families moved slowly toward the galactic edge. Human diplomats made apologetic speeches about learning from their mistakes. But beneath the surface, something else was happening. Strike forces moved through hyperspace toward their targets. Sleeper agents activated equipment that had been waiting for months. Scientists made final adjustments to weapons that would rewrite the rules of galactic warfare. The Council members went about their business, confident that the human problem had been solved. They made jokes about primitive species that could not understand civilized behavior. They began planning how to divide up the territories that humanity would abandon. In the Zephyrian capital, purple-skinned officials celebrated their victory over the troublesome humans. In the crystalline hegemony, living gems sparkled with satisfaction. In the insectoid collective, hive minds buzzed with pleasure at the successful removal of a disruptive element. None of them noticed the small ships that had been hiding in their systems for weeks. None of them detected the signals that passed between seemingly innocent merchant vessels. None of them realized that their own communication networks had been compromised by human agents. The 30 days were almost over. The Council believed they had successfully exiled humanity from civilized space. Tomorrow, they would learn the difference between exile and invasion. Humanity had chosen conquest over defeat. The clock on Admiral Lisa Carter's command ship showed 0300 Galactic Standard Time. She sat in her command chair aboard the battleship Retribution, watching 17 different tactical displays. Each screen showed a different star system. Each system was about to become a battlefield. "All units report ready," her communications officer announced. "Strike forces are in position across the target zones." Carter looked at the faces of her senior officers. These were people who had trained their whole lives for this moment. They knew that the next few hours would decide humanity's fate forever. "Begin Operation Prometheus," she ordered. Light years away, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance as it dropped out of hyperspace above the Zephyrian capital world. Around him, 50 other human warships appeared like ghosts in the darkness. The alien patrol ships guarding the planet had no time to react. "Launching the biological agents now," Morrison's science officer reported. Invisible clouds of Dr. Helen Brooks' engineered bacteria spread through the atmosphere, carried by the planet's own weather systems. The Zephyrian Defense Fleet tried to respond, but their purple-skinned crews were already beginning to feel sick. The bacteria attacked their nervous systems, causing confusion and weakness. Within minutes, alien commanders were struggling to remember basic procedures. "Their ships are dead in space," Morrison's tactical officer announced. The electromagnetic pulse worked perfectly. Morrison nodded grimly. Tony Martinez's hidden weapons had activated throughout the system, sending out waves of energy that fried every piece of alien electronics within range. The proud Zephyrian fleet now drifted helplessly, their crews too sick to fight, and their ships too damaged to fly. "Begin the landing operation," Morrison ordered. "Secure the capital and establish martial law." In the Gamma Centauri system, Major Carl Johnson led the first human ground assault in galactic history. His soldiers wore simple environmental suits as they stormed the methane-breathing Galaxian's atmospheric processors. The aliens had expected any attackers to need complex life support systems. They were not prepared for humans who could fight effectively in any environment. "Their defenses are breaking," Johnson reported over the radio. "These creatures are too specialized. They can only fight in their perfect conditions. We can fight anywhere." The Galaxian warriors, used to fighting in the thick methane clouds of their homeworld, found themselves confused by human tactics. Humans used their environment against them, turning off atmospheric processors and forcing the aliens to fight in conditions they had never experienced. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, the crystalline hegemony's living gem warriors discovered the horror of Dr. Brooks' biological weapons. The nanobots she had designed specifically for silicon-based life forms ate through their crystal bodies like acid. Warriors who had stood for centuries crumbled to dust in minutes. "The mining facilities are secure," reported the human commander. "Their entire defense force has been neutralized." The insectoid collective faced a different kind of nightmare. Their hive minds, which had made them so effective in battle, became their weakness when human agents introduced confusion viruses into their communication networks. Thousands of bug-like soldiers ran in circles, unable to coordinate their movements or understand their orders. Admiral Carter watched the reports flood in from across the galaxy. System after system fell to human forces. The aliens' greatest strengths became their greatest weaknesses when faced with humanity's adaptability. "The Aquatic Federation is attempting to mount a counterattack," her intelligence officer reported. "They are sending their entire deep space fleet toward Earth." Carter smiled coldly. "Let them come. Colonel Walker's forces are waiting." In the void between star systems, Colonel Beth Walker's Special Forces ships hung invisible in the darkness. They had been waiting for 3 days, powered down and silent. The approaching alien fleet had no idea they were flying into a trap. 67 enemy ships incoming, Walker's sensor operator whispered. "All heavy cruisers and battleships." "Hold position," Walker ordered. "Let them get close." The Aquatic Federation's fleet was impressive. Their ships looked like giant sea creatures, designed to work in the liquid environments their crews preferred. They were powerful and well-armed, but they were also predictable. "Now," Walker commanded. Human ships appeared from every direction at once. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies they had never seen coming. The battle was over in minutes. The Federation's proud fleet became floating wreckage. Back on the Zephyrian capital, Morrison walked through the halls of the planetary government building. Purple-skinned officials cowered before him, their earlier arrogance replaced by fear. The same aliens who had voted to exile humanity now begged for mercy. "Please," the planetary governor wheezed, still struggling with the effects of the biological weapon. "We can negotiate. We can find a peaceful solution." Morrison looked at the alien with cold eyes. "You had your chance for peace. You chose exile. Instead, now you will learn what human rule looks like." Dr. Brooks arrived at the occupied world with her research team. She walked through the alien hospitals, observing the effects of her biological weapons. The bacteria had done exactly what she designed them to do, causing sickness without death. "The paralysis is temporary," she explained to Morrison. "They will recover in a few weeks, but they will remember what happened here." "Good," Morrison replied. "Fear is sometimes more effective than violence." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Human forces established control with swift efficiency. Alien populations found themselves under military occupation, their governments replaced by human administrators. The speed of the conquest shocked even the humans themselves. In less than 72 hours, the mighty Galactic Council had been reduced to scattered remnants. Their most powerful worlds were under human control. Their fleets were destroyed or captured. On Earth, President Williams received the reports with satisfaction. The planet that had been threatened with isolation was now the center of a growing empire. The species that had been called too dangerous for civilized space had proven just how dangerous they really were. Signal all human forces, Williams ordered. Phase 1 is complete. Begin establishing the new order. The few alien worlds that had not been attacked received a simple message. Admiral Carter's voice was broadcast across their communication networks, calm and clear. To the remaining members of the former Galactic Council, she said, "You have seen what happens to those who oppose humanity. You now have a choice. Surrender peacefully and accept human rule, or resist and face the same fate as your allies." The message was accompanied by footage from the conquered worlds. Alien leaders watched in horror as their most powerful civilizations fell to human forces. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, was now a human colony. The crystalline hegemony's living gems lay shattered on a dozen worlds. One by one, the remaining alien governments began to send surrender messages. The fungal collective offered to submit to human authority. The gas giant alliance asked for terms of surrender. The energy beings begged for mercy. Within a week of the first attack, the war was over. The Galactic Council that had voted to exile humanity no longer existed. In its place stood something new and terrifying. The human hegemony. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not too dangerous for civilized space. They were too dangerous for anyone who opposed them. The exile had lasted exactly 37 days. The conquest would last forever. 3 months after the conquest began, the galaxy looked completely different. Ambassador Patricia Clark stood in what used to be the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The tall crystal walls still gleamed in the artificial light, but now they displayed the flag of the human hegemony. Instead of the symbols of 12 alien species. Clark had been a diplomat before the war. Now she was the governor of the Central Sector, responsible for ruling over 6 different alien species. It was a job she had never wanted, but someone had to do it. "The morning reports, Governor," her aide said, handing her a tablet. The aide was a young Zephyrian named Vex, one of the few aliens who had quickly adapted to human rule. Clark read through the reports with growing satisfaction. Crime was down on most worlds. Food production was up. The transportation systems were running more efficiently than they had in decades. It seemed that human management was actually improving life for many alien civilians. "The crystalline hegemony worlds are requesting permission to rebuild their destroyed cities," Vex reported. "They want to use their traditional building methods." "Approved," Clark said. "But make sure they understand the new safety regulations. We will not allow another collapse like the one on Kepler 442b. The irony was not lost on her. The same aliens who had called humans too primitive to join galactic civilization were now asking for human permission to rebuild their own worlds. The former council members had become subjects of the species they had tried to exile. On the former, Zephyrian capital world, District Governor Mike Torres was dealing with more complicated problems. The purple-skinned aliens were proud and had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They found it much harder to accept human authority than other species. "Governor Torres," his security chief reported, "we have detected another resistance cell in the northern continent. They are planning to sabotage the power grid." Torres sighed. It was the 3rd such group this month. The Zephyrians just could not accept that their empire was over. They kept trying to fight back, even though they had no chance of success. "Arrest the leaders," he ordered, "but treat them well. Offer them jobs in the new administration if they promise to stop causing trouble." This was the human way. They did not rule through fear alone, though they could when necessary. They preferred to win over their subjects by showing them that life under human rule could be better than what they had before. In her laboratory on the research station orbiting Gamma Centauri, Dr. Helen Brooks was working on her latest project. The biological weapons that had won the war were now being converted into medical treatments. The same bacteria that had paralyzed Zephyrian soldiers were being modified to cure diseases that had plagued their species for generations. The neural regeneration therapy is ready for testing, her assistant reported. The crystalline hegemony volunteers are willing to try it. Brooks nodded. Many of the crystal beings had been damaged during the Conquest. Their bodies were slowly dissolving, a side effect of the nanobots she had designed. She felt responsible for fixing the damage her weapons had caused. Begin the treatment, she ordered, and make sure the subjects understand that this is free. We are not doing this for profit. It was another way that humans surprised their new subjects. The same species that had conquered them so brutally was now working to heal the damage they had caused. It created a confusing mix of fear and gratitude that made resistance much harder to organize. Colonel Beth Walker was having different problems on the outer worlds. The Aquatic Federation's remaining forces had retreated to the water world of Oceanus, where they were trying to build a new resistance movement. The problem was that humans were not naturally suited to underwater combat. The submersible suits are working well, her engineering officer reported, but our soldiers are still slower than the native forces underwater. Walker studied the tactical display. The Federation's warriors were skilled fighters in their natural environment, but they had made a crucial mistake. They thought like fish, not like humans. Drain the ocean, she ordered. Her officers looked at her in shock. Mom? Use the atmospheric processors, Walker explained. Convert the water to breathable air. Force them to fight on our terms, not theirs. It was a massive undertaking, but humans had always been good at changing environments to suit their needs. Within weeks, the proud underwater cities of the Aquatic Federation were surrounded by air instead of water. The fish-like aliens found themselves gasping and helpless, forced to surrender or die. Back on Earth, President Williams was preparing for his most important speech yet. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity now ruled over 47 star systems and billions of alien subjects. The question was what to do with all that power. The speech is ready for your review, his advisor said. The broadcast will reach every world in the former Council territory. Williams read through the text carefully. The words would be heard by dozens of species, many of whom still feared and hated their human rulers. He needed to strike the right balance between strength and mercy. People of the galaxy, he began when the camera started rolling. 3 months ago, your leaders chose to exile humanity from civilized space. They called us too dangerous, too violent to share the stars with you. Today, we have proven them both right and wrong. He paused, letting the words sink in. We are dangerous. We are violent when threatened, but we are also capable of great mercy and wisdom. Under human rule, your worlds are safer, more prosperous, and more peaceful than they have been in generations. On dozens of worlds, alien families gathered around their screens to listen to the human leader. Some watched in fear, others in curiosity. A few were beginning to feel something they had not expected: hope. We did not choose this path, Williams continued. You forced us to it when you tried to cast us into exile. But now that we walk it, we will walk it with honor. Human rule will be firm but fair. We will protect the innocent and punish the guilty, regardless of species. In the former council chambers, the surviving alien leaders watched the broadcast from their comfortable prison cells. They had once been the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Now they were living reminders of what happened to those who underestimated humanity. The Zephyrian Emperor, his purple skin now faded and gray, spoke for all of them. We created our own doom, he said quietly. We thought we were casting out a minor annoyance. Instead, we freed the greatest predator the galaxy has ever known. Admiral Lisa Carter, now Supreme Commander of Human Forces, stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of known space, were more worlds to explore, more species to encounter. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was just getting started. "Set course for the Andromeda sector," she ordered. "It is time to see what lies beyond the old council borders." The human hegemony was expanding. What had begun as an exile had become the foundation of an empire that would span the galaxy. The aliens had wanted to get rid of humanity. Instead, they had given them a reason to conquer everything. The reckoning was complete. Humanity had answered the galaxy's challenge with overwhelming force. Now they would spend the rest of eternity deciding what to do with their victory. 1 year had passed since the Galactic Council's exile decree. Chancellor Danny Williams stood before a gathering that would have been impossible to imagine just 12 months earlier. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime was filled with representatives from 47 star systems, but now they all served one master. Humanity. Williams no longer called himself president. That title belonged to the old world, when Earth was just one planet among many. Now he ruled an empire that stretched across the galaxy, and his word was law on countless worlds. "Fellow citizens of the human hegemony," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. 1 year ago, the former Galactic Council made a decision that changed the galaxy forever. They sought to cast us into darkness beyond the rim. Instead, they gave us the motivation to bring light to every corner of space. In the audience, alien delegates listened in silence. Some were the same beings who had voted for humanity's exile. Others were new leaders who had risen to power under human rule. All of them understood that their survival depended on keeping their human masters satisfied. The Zephyrian representative, a younger purple-skinned female named Kira, shifted nervously in her seat. Her people had once ruled half the galaxy. Now, they governed a single world under human supervision. The fall from power had been swift and complete. The old council promised peace and order, Williams continued. Yet under their rule, pirates raided trade routes with impunity. Wars broke out over minor territorial disputes. Entire species lived in fear of their neighbors. This was the civilization they claimed was too advanced for humanity to join. Admiral Morrison, now promoted to fleet commander, watched from the military section. His ships patrolled the space lanes, keeping them safer than they had been in centuries. Human technology and tactics had eliminated the pirate fleets that had plagued galactic commerce for generations. Under human rule, those problems have ended, Williams declared. Our fleets patrol every system. Our administrators govern with efficiency and fairness. Our scientists work to improve life for all species under our protection. In the science sector, Dr. Helen Brooks nodded approvingly. Her research stations were developing medical treatments that had already saved millions of alien lives. The same woman who had created weapons to conquer the galaxy was now using her skills to heal it. But our work is not finished, Williams announced. Beyond the borders of known space lie countless worlds waiting to be discovered. New species that have never heard of human civilization. New challenges that will test our strength and wisdom. Governor Patricia Clark felt a chill run down her spine. She had hoped that the expansion would slow down, that humanity would be content with ruling what they had already conquered. But she could see in Williams' eyes that this was just the beginning. Today, I announced the launch of the Great Exploration, Williams declared. Our fleets will push beyond the galactic rim into uncharted space. We will find new worlds for humanity to settle, new species to join our empire, new frontiers to conquer. The hall erupted in mixed reactions. Human officers cheered with enthusiasm. Alien delegates whispered nervously among themselves. They had learned what happened to species that resisted human expansion. Later that day, Clark walked through the memorial district of Nexus Prime. The aliens had built monuments to their greatest leaders and achievements. Now those monuments stood beside new ones, celebrating human victories. The largest memorial was called the Exile Monument. It showed a human figure standing against the darkness of space, holding a sword in one hand and a star in the other. The inscription beneath read, "They sought to cast us into darkness. We brought the light of human will to every corner of the galaxy." Impressive, is it not? Came a voice behind her. Clark turned to see Vex, her Zephyrian aide. The young alien had adapted well to human rule, but Clark could still see sadness in his eyes when he looked at the monuments to his people's former glory. "Do you regret it?" Clark asked. "The Exile Order, I mean." Vex was quiet for a long moment. "My people believed we were protecting the galaxy from a dangerous species," he said finally. "We thought we were wise, and you were primitive. Now I understand that wisdom and primitive nature are not the same thing." "What do you mean?" "You humans are not primitive," Vex explained. "You are simply young. But youth brings energy and ambition that old species have forgotten. We became comfortable in our power and forgot how to fight for it. You never forgot." Clark nodded. It was true. The alien species had grown complacent over centuries of dominance. They had expected their superiority to protect them forever. They had never imagined that a young species could challenge them so effectively. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Conquest. Around him, a massive fleet prepared for humanity's next great adventure. Hundreds of ships filled the void, carrying soldiers, scientists, and colonists toward the unknown regions beyond the galactic edge. "Long-range sensors are detecting artificial signals," his navigation officer reported. "There are definitely inhabited systems out there." Morrison smiled grimly. More worlds meant more challenges, but also more opportunities. Humanity had proven they could conquer established civilizations. Now they would test themselves against completely unknown enemies. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Begin the advance. Let us see what the universe has to offer." The ships moved forward into the darkness, between galaxies, carrying the flag of the human hegemony toward new conquests. Behind them, the conquered worlds of the former Galactic Council continued their daily lives under human rule. In the crystalline hegemony territories, the living gems had learned to appreciate human efficiency. Their worlds ran smoother under human administration than they ever had under their own leaders. Crime was down, productivity was up, and for the first time in their history, they felt truly safe. The Insectoid Collective had integrated most successfully into the new order. Their hive minds made them natural followers once they accepted human authority. Now they served as loyal soldiers and workers in the human empire, grateful for the structure and purpose their new masters provided. Even the proud Aquatic Federation had found benefits in human rule. The terraforming projects had given them new worlds to colonize, oceans designed specifically for their needs. Their children would grow up in a galaxy where their safety was guaranteed by human power. Back on Earth, construction crews worked around the clock to build monuments celebrating humanity's greatest triumph. The planet that had faced exile was now the center of a galactic empire. Schools taught children about the day when their species chose conquest over defeat. In the museums, displays showed artifacts from the Conquest, the uniforms worn by the first assault troops, the weapons that had brought down alien fleets, the treaty documents that had formalized alien surrender. Each exhibit told the same story: never underestimate humanity. Chancellor Williams stood in his office, looking out at the stars through reinforced windows. Somewhere out there, Admiral Morrison's fleet was making contact with new species. Some would submit peacefully. Others would resist and face the consequences. A communication came in from the exploration fleet. Morrison's voice was calm and professional as always. "Sir, we have made contact with a coalition of machine intelligences. They call themselves the Digital Dominion. They have refused our terms of surrender and are mobilizing their forces." William smiled. Another challenge, another opportunity to prove human superiority. The galaxy had taught humanity a valuable lesson when they voted for exile. There was no safety in isolation, no peace in weakness. There was only conquest or defeat. "Proceed with standard conquest protocols," Williams ordered. "Show them what happens to those who resist the human hegemony." The Empire continued to grow, spreading human influence to every corner of the galaxy and beyond. The exile that was meant to last forever had lasted exactly 37 days. The empire that grew from it would last until the stars burned out. Humanity had answered the galaxy's challenge with overwhelming force. Now they would spend eternity deciding what to do with their victory. And the universe would learn what it meant to face a species that refused to accept defeat.